You have a TV?
No. I just like to read the TV guide. Read the TV guide. You don't need a TV.
Television addict! Television addict! Television addict!
Hello, everybody. Welcome to I don't know what week this is, 41 of the global pandemic lockdown. I am on, I think, my third remote episode of the show, and I keep getting better at it. It is oddly, this will sound strange, but it is a high learning curve for me to be able to talk to people via the computer. I am incredibly phone phobic. And it sounds stupid, but it's just not quite the same thing. Even though I'm using things like Zoom and Skype and, I'm face to face with the person, for some reason, it is not quite the same thing, but I'm getting there. I'm getting better at this, and getting better at the technical issues. I had to literally rebuild my entire computer because my hard drive was not up to snuff, and I did lose an entire episode, or actually just half of an episode, meaning the guest's half was all garbled. So if for some strange reason you want to hear an episode of TV Guidance Counselor where it's just me talking, and you could fill in what the guest might have said, I do have that. I don't know why you would want that, but it is something that you could do. My guest this week is a guest who was scheduled to do this show in person when I was back in LA back in March. Stephanie Erb. She is an actor, writer, and is just incredible. I am sad that we didn't get to do it face to face, but I'm glad that we got to do it at all. She is very funny, very smart, very talented. She just did an indie movie that's out called Ragdoll. She won 3 supporting actress awards for it, which is pretty amazing. And it is out on all of the streaming services. So you can go, on Prime Video, Apple, Vudu, all that kind of stuff, and check that out. And she is doing a web show called Therapy with Pami, and that is on Facebook and on YouTube. And I will put up links to all that stuff there too, but definitely check out what she's doing. You have plenty of time to watch things, and she's made plenty of good things. In addition, she has been a guest on every show. She's really, if you pull up her IMDb, it is extensive, and she's done all kinds of things, and I really loved getting a chance to sit and talk to her. Also, I do want everyone to know, I so appreciate you guys listening to the show still. Weirdly, listenership goes down in a global pandemic, which I had not expected, but makes sense, I suppose. So I am grateful to you that have stuck around, and to you that have stuck around on the Patreon. I know that times are tough, and I certainly do not deserve your money. If you have any money to spare and you want to give it to someone far more deserving than me, please do. But for those of you who still give me your money every month for the Patreon, I cannot thank you enough. I'm still trying to put up extra content on there. Let me know if you like that secret menu stuff. In addition, I am doing those daily videos still. I'm up to, I don't even know how many, of just dumb stuff with dumb stuff I have hanging around my house. So for some reason you don't follow me on YouTube or on Instagram or Twitter or Facebook or any of those things, give me a follow there at Kenneth W. Reed, R-E-I-D, or at TV Guidance for the show. And I tend to post all that dumb stuff there, and let me know what you think. And if you want to let me know what you think via email, you can do so at tvguidancecounselor@gmail.com or ken@icanread.com, and I will get back to you as soon as possible. So without further ado, please sit back, relax, and enjoy this week's episode of TV Guidance Counselor live via satellite with my guest, Stephanie Erb.
TV is my friend, and it has been always there for me in time of need.
Stephanie Erb, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. We were just chatting a little bit before I started recording about how we're keeping our sanity and the end of the world global pandemic.
The apocalypse, if you will.
Yes. So we had planned to do this. Was it 2 months ago almost now?
Yep.
When I was in LA at the very beginning of this, but things didn't work out. So we are on opposite coasts of the country now to chat television.
Yay!
Before we get to some of the stuff you've done, which is a ton of things. You've been in so many things. You were just saying that, and I didn't know this, that you did stand-up for 4 years.
Yeah, you know what? I have done all the things. I feel like as an actor, I'm always trying to try something that scares me or something that I think will benefit my skills. So not only have I done a ton of improv, but I decided I wanted to do stand-up because it scared the crap out of me. And I actually was pretty good at it. I did it for about 4 years around the LA area, did some comedy festivals. And what I ultimately found out was that for a female in particular, it is not a friendly world. And also that I probably would end up being an alcoholic if I did stand up too much, because you kind of hang out and complain with a lot of people afterwards. But my hat is off to people who do it well, because it is hard. The best ones are the ones that are paying attention to everything while they're doing it and ignoring all of it at the same time. And that's a skill.
It's a weirdly solitary, bitter life. I've never enjoyed any of the social aspects of stand-up, and I always kind of joke if I could just be beamed on stage and do stand-up and then beam myself home, I would very much more enjoy it.
Well, and people think it's all jolly and everything, but it really isn't. You have comedians who stay and watch your set and are really honorable, and then ones who are like in the hallway talking on the phone during your set and ignoring everything. And it's just the etiquette of stand-up leaves something to be desired, I think.
Oh, yeah. And as someone who hasn't worked as an actor or really behind the scenes in any sort of television or movies like you have, it seems the polar opposite in that when you make something for television or movies, it's a team effort. It has to be.
Right.
And if you make something good, it's sort of despite everything. Whereas in stand-up, it's almost like other people being involved in what you do, people look at as some sort of weird liability.
Yes, that's very true. It is a very solitary world. And as we were saying, often the meanest people do very well.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Because they don't give a crap about anything or anybody and only about themselves. Now, that is not something that is a hard and fast rule, because I do believe some of the comedians who have risen to the very tippy top are kind of awesome people who care about things.
For sure.
But when you are not at the tippy top, it takes all kinds, I think.
Oh, there's a whole middle ground of terrible people.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, and I've also met some people who are dear friends, too. But overall, I didn't feel like it was a safe environment for me. As an actress, I think I've had to develop my vulnerability to a great extent, and it just is not a place for a vulnerable person at all. No,
not at all. And it's it's a tough world. Eugene Merman, who's a good friend of mine, did a great comedy festival every year that was an actual festival, but also sort of a parody of a festival.
Oh, I love that.
One year he had a showcase show called Great Guy, Terrible Comedian.
That's fabulous. I found actually over time that I did better because if I would approach it like I was playing a character. So there's a comedian, Kyle Chris. He does a Comic-Con stand-up thing where you come as a character, and I would do it as Spock's girlfriend.
Right.
And I had so much more fun when I would just pretend I was someone else, because it was more of an acting job than here's Stephanie with her heart on her sleeve in front of all these people who might be drinking and ignoring her while she's talking, Yeah,
because they're judging you and your experiences when you're up there, and it's and not just, obviously you get judged how you look as an actor, but you at least can say something like, look, I did the best I could with the material I had, whereas with stand-up it's like, oh, I'm just terrible. Well,
yeah, you can come away from acting jobs thinking you're just terrible too, right. But it's a different circumstance. It's very immediate with stand-up, like, oh, I bombed, I suck, now I'm going to go home and eat a bunch of French fries and cry myself to sleep. Whereas with acting, maybe you won't find out you sucked till later when the TV show airs or the movie is out on some indie festival. It's a very different process.
You mentioning that you did stand up as Spock's girlfriend is a good segue into some TV stuff, because you're a huge Star Trek fan, aren't you?
Yes. I actually, before I even came to LA, I was in New York doing theater, and I took this actors trying to create a career class, and they were like, make a list of 10 things that would be like your big dreams to have come true. And one of mine was to be in a Star Trek episode, because as a little kid, as a little 8-year-old, I used to audio tape every episode of the original Star Trek and memorize them. So I'd be like listening to it on car trips and memorizing episodes of the old Star Trek. And of course, I had a massive crush on Leonard Nimoy. Not Mr. Shatner, but Leonard Nimoy was my man, which is why I made a stand-up routine about being his ex-girlfriend.
Right. You like the cold calculating type.
Well, and also really smart. I like smart.
I actually have a big stand-up bit about Leonard Nimoy because he is from here in Boston.
Oh, yeah.
I on my last album, I have a joke about, I'm not a sports fan, about how all these people who worship the athletes who aren't really from here, and all the sort of towny dirtbags should worship people who are from here, like Leonard Nimoy or Julia Childs or people like that.
Julia Childs.
Jack Haley.
People from there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And Nimoy, my favorite thing is he never got rid of his old man Boston accent, even though he tried.
Well, I love
Spock
that.
has one. It's sort of canon now that Vulcans have a Boston accent.
Absolutely. It's a very specific thing, and it worked gloriously, I think.
Were you an In Search Of fan?
I did watch that. I watched a lot of TV as a kid. So yeah, that was definitely part of my thing. And I even remember he was doing his show about Vincent van Gogh's brother, I think, from city to city. And I was taking acting classes as a little kid in the theater where he was doing his show about Van Gogh's brother. And they had the setup where we were doing our class, and I kissed the carpet because I knew he stood on it. So yeah, I guess I was a little hardcore. So I decided, there was Next Generation on when I moved out here. And I just was like, that's one of my main goals. Of course, I had never done anything except what is the show about finding criminals?
America's Most Wanted. Oh, you did Unsolved Mysteries? Oh, you were a recreation?
One in Ohio where I grew up. And they needed someone to play a slutty babysitter. So that was my first time on camera, and the only time on camera before I moved to LA. So I had literally no camera experience, but this wish list I made was what I came out here with. And my first job in television was on Star Trek Next Generation, which was crazy and freaked me out.
That's pretty cool.
It was very cool.
I imagine you were just beside yourself walking around the bridge and you're like, I'm in Star Trek.
I was terrified because when you mostly come from theater and you move to camera work, you're afraid you're going to move your face too much or talk too loud, or you don't know how to do anything. So
too big.
What I would do is just copy whatever Patrick Stewart was doing. I was like, if he had a close-up and he would yawn before his close-up, I'd be like, okay, I got to relax my face because that's what Patrick Stewart is doing. And if you watch my episode of Next Generation, which is called Man of the People, I hardly move my face at all because I am terrified to be like overacty.
Right.
That was my big fear, is that I would be like, oh, she should not be on camera because she's a stage actress and she doesn't know how to tone it down. So I was both giddy, exhausted, and terrified. Also because one of Michael Westmore, the famous makeup artist, had to hand paint a tattoo on my forehead. Mm-hmm. And the ladies who did hair for that show were amazing. And they did this crazy multiple knotted back hairdo for me. So my call time was 3 a.m.
Ugh.
And so I had to get there at 3 a.m. and the rest of the cast showed up at like normal hours. Meanwhile, right. I am already like in having out-of-body experiences because I'm so tired. But, it was a joy and amazing, and it scared the crap out of me that I made a dream come true.
Yeah.
It's all over for me. I'm done.
Right.
I should probably just jump off a cliff right now. But yeah, it was a dream come true. And I would simply love to do one of the newer ones they're doing right now.
Have you watched them at all, the Picard?
I haven't yet because I don't know. TV has become a very, very love-hate relationship for me because now it's my work. It's like a busman's holiday. Right. So it has to be something I'm incredibly driven to watch. And now that we are, of course, in the coronavirus times, it has to be happy.
Oh, no, I'm right there with you on that.
Because
one.
I'm like, I can't watch Ozark or something where it's dark, angry, scary people doing bad things. I just can't do it right now.
Yeah, I find myself watching like not reality shows, but like home improvement shows.
Me
or,
too.
like,
And
cooking.
baking contests.
Yep.
And I watch John Mulaney do anything over and over.
Oh yeah. Yeah. The lunch show he did with the kids is
Oh my
fantastic.
God. He's brilliant. I love him. I want to marry him, but he's already married. I want to marry a lot of guys.
A lot of marriages will break up in this lockdown, so you might have a
there
shot.
might be a lot of stress.
Yes, absolutely. I just want to back up for 1 second about the Unsolved Mysteries because I'm fascinated by that show.
Okay.
Did you watch it when it aired? Was it like a big deal? Like, let's have a premiere party on the Slutty Babysitter?
I mean, I had one line, and I think I was playing the slutty babysitter who maybe knew the guy who was dead, but didn't want to help the police or the investigators. So I answered the door, I peek out. I made sure my bra strap was showing because I wanted to prove that I was a slut in some subtle way. And they were like, have you seen this guy? And I say, nope, never seen him. And I closed the door. That was it. So it wasn't, I don't think in my entire career I have ever had any kind of premiere viewing or made any hoopla about anything.
Really?
And I think it's because we're so aware as actors that it could end at any moment. Like, you kind of just you move on to what's next. I don't think that's particularly healthy. And I feel like I need to start celebrating what I have done up to this point a little bit more than I have. But yeah, that just wasn't my way. I remember when I first got out here, I'd go to parties where an actor who shall remain nameless, was playing his demo reel during the party, so you could watch it. And I was like, that's kind of gross a little bit.
That's not the first I've heard of that.
No, and people do it. And I think it's probably my problem with that more than his problem. Like, I just was like, that's something I could never do because, maybe I don't have a healthy ego or self-esteem about my work. Like, I haven't made it where I want to go yet. But perhaps now I should have more parties when I book a job I'm proud of and say, yay, I did this thing. Because it's really hard to get the things.
It absolutely is. It's such a triumph when you get something and then also to do a good job on them.
Exactly.
But my heart always breaks for everyone I know who's an actor. They fall into one of two categories where it's they never watch anything they do or they watch everything they do.
Yeah.
And my heart kind of breaks for the people who don't watch things they do because they can't lose themselves in it, especially when, like, you've done so many good things and so many things I've enjoyed over the years. It's like, oh, she doesn't get to enjoy it.
Well, it is a self-criticism thing because there are some things I've watched. Like, I was really proud of my work in Ray Donovan because it was a very difficult split between being kind of a comic relief character, but having to be really grounded in reality. And I thought I did my job really well in that one. So I didn't mind watching it. But some of them I'm like, I could have done that different. Or, it's just, especially when you are not a big star and you get to have your fourth take, if you feel like you didn't quite hit it, you have to deliver a product really fast. And that is a challenge, and sometimes you meet it and sometimes you don't. And I think that's why a lot of us cringe a little bit. Or we're also watching, if we've gained 10 pounds, we get to see that happen. If we are aging, as you can't avoid, we watch that happening on screen. It's not always a good ego boost either.
Yeah, for sure. I mean,
I've had some jobs where they went out of their way to make me look terrible. Like I did a movie this summer with Denzel Washington and Rami Malek, and very excited to be working with those guys. But they put not a speck of makeup on my face. And I know they lit me to look awful because I'm a woman whose daughter has disappeared. And I was like, shit, I'm going to look like I'm 85 in this movie.
Right.
Suddenly I'm going to get a lot more grandma auditions. And that's very sad for me because I don't want to jump that gun quite yet. But it's just, you have so little control over also what the editors pick,
Right.
what makes it on there or what gets cut, which is also very depressing sometimes.
You take the work you can get and then you do the best you can, but it's if in a perfect world they would all be glam roles and you just look amazing and bigger than life.
Or I'm a character actress deep down, I think. So I don't mind looking terrible, but if you make me look terrible and I don't play anything but very sickly looking tired ladies
Right.
for the rest of my career, that's not fun, because what's
Right.
fun for me is a wide range of characters. And that is what I pride myself on. I may look like me, but I'm always trying to tweak it up, tweak the characterization, get a little transformational with it, because that's where I have fun. I have fun because working with other people is fabulous when it's a real team effort, but I also just love to create a character.
Because then the second, or well, actually, I guess it's the third thing you did is you were in the Peter Weir movie, Fearless, right?
That was the other job I got that year. Moved here, where I had written on that list of 10 things I want to work with Peter Weir. And
oh, really? Were you a fan of like Picnic at Hanging Rock or like some
of them? Just such a visionary and so different. And as a theater actress, when someone can create a alternate reality on stage, it's just amazing. And I feel like all of his films did that.
Absolutely.
So far. He's not done making films, I hope, but he doesn't do them very much anymore. But yeah, the story of how I got that job is a long one. I don't know if you want to hear it. But
well, I think I think there was his first big U.S. movie. Unless I'm.
Well, it was, yeah. Well, Witness. Witness.
Oh, true. Yes.
Yeah. So Witness was the one where he made his big splash.
Jodie Foster. Was it Jodie Foster?
And Jeff Bridges is in Fearless, and he had to fight for Jeff Bridges. The studio did not want Jeff Bridges. They didn't feel like at that time he was a big marquee actor who could sell a lot of tickets, Huh.
I guess they had seen him as a flop in Starman or something. So
right. I don't know, but I also feel like the way they publicized that movie, because they made it look like it was just a plane crash movie, which it really isn't.
Yeah, that's like the first 5 minutes of the movie, basically.
Yeah, and then it's over. But I think a lot of people didn't go see it because of that,
Yeah.
And that was a huge shame, because that was the job that was supposed to, people were like, oh my God, you have this pivotal role. You're gonna be set. You're gonna start auditioning for big movies. And because it kind of went,
Right.
That did not happen for me. So it was like back on the grind, on the treadmill, trying to get my next job instead of having, who is that actor? She was really interesting,
Right. Yeah, because they almost advertised it like a horror movie.
Yeah, which was completely wrong, because it's really an affirmation of life and a beautiful, it's almost like poetry to me, that movie.
Yeah, absolutely.
So many good performances.
Rosie Perez, I think, is the other lead. Am I remembering right?
Bella Rossellini. John Delancey was in it.
Wow.
What's his face who played Mozart in the movie?
Oh yeah, who's in Parenthood as well.
Yeah.
I can't think of his name.
Yeah,
but yeah, amazing.
But okay,
yeah.
We know that guy.
Yes, the guy. It's the guy.
He did a great job playing Mozart in the amazing film. So,
but it's so strange to me, because you make this big movie with a visionary director, and it's a Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
It's not an indie movie, and then to your point, it was sort of marketed incorrectly, and what didn't end up being the sort of break that you wanted it to be.
No.
But then you sort of immediately shift into doing a lot of guest spots on multicam sitcoms for a couple of years.
Well, I didn't immediately. It took me about, here's the weird thing. I booked this big movie, and it was through my own machinations that happened.
Right.
And I was with an agent that was sort of waiting for me to prove myself, and I thought, well, now I did it. But I didn't, there was a pilot season following that, and that was in the days where you could have 50 pilot auditions. Very different than it is now. And I didn't book one, so they dropped me.
Ugh.
So I literally ended up with no representation after doing a major motion picture. It's a very cruel business. So
yeah.
I was back at square one, and it took me a very long time to get a manager and then get an agent. And then ironically, I went from playing crying roles and drama roles to booking something on the Ellen sitcom,
right,
playing Jeremy Piven's girlfriend, And so suddenly I was like, sitcoms are fun because they're more like theater.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's sort of a middle ground between theater and film acting, and most people I know who come from theater usually end up getting those kinds of roles first, not sort of more cinematic stuff like you do.
Yeah, I don't think my career has made any sense whatsoever in terms of the progression. But I will tell you that if you start doing a lot of, like as I got older, I would start doing a lot of the procedural dramas where you play victims or victims' wives or mothers or whatever, and then you start getting all those. And I think those are perhaps, although they pay well, they are the least gratifying to do. I would much rather at this stage in my career be on a sitcom because the schedule is amazing and you laugh all day. Unless there's some oppressive person on set, then that can sort of go away. But it would be a dream. I mean, my dream career is really Allison Janney at this point. I would love to do all the things that she is doing. But I can't because she's doing them. So I have to figure out where I'm headed.
Well, again,
I started making my own television because it's easier to do that now. So
because you have the therapy show that did you just finish the season?
We just wrapped up putting out the season on YouTube and Facebook. It's called Therapy with Pami, and that's spelled Pami. Before that, I did a show called Viv and Keeks, which I shopped around. It's a much more expensive show, so I'm sort of just waiting for someone to find it at this point. Therapy with Pami was just 2 people, 1 set. And we shot it in 4K because we got a favor done by a cinematographer, and it ended up looking great. So we put it out on the internet. I think we've had 200,000 views so far, but we want to do a second season and keep it going. So it's all just a discovery journey as we go. And then right before COVID hit, I shot a bunch of short comic pieces with a member of the regular cast of Documentary Now, if you ever that. Yep. And absolutely. She and I wrote a bunch of shorts and we shot them. So we'll be putting those out. It's called Short Smirks, which is really hard to say.
Short Smirks. Yeah, it is a little bit.
But we haven't finished editing the pieces yet. So those will be out there eventually.
But it's interesting that you've gone proactive and taking advantage of the world we live in now where, the thing I always say about this show is, I do it from my house, basically. Yep. But my show is right there on the digital shelf next to $1 million shows in really expensive studios.
Right.
And you can do that now. And I don't think enough people take advantage.
Yahoo Entertainment picked Therapy with Pami as one on their it list of what to watch in entertainment during quarantine. So, we're getting found by people. They put us on their list with Tiger King and I forget what else, Kardashians and stuff. And I'm like, okay, we're getting a little press here and there. And, our goal is to roll it out and expand the universe of Therapy with Pami as much as we can.
But you couldn't have done that even 5 years ago. Wouldn't have been able to.
No, not at all. I mean, what I think I came to a conclusion about 4 years ago as I was reading for more ladies who cry because their husband's dead or whatever. Right. And I was like, usually these scenes are, these shows, the procedurals are very formulaic and you come out and you drop a bunch of information, you cry and you leave. And that is not what I like. I like to play a multi-layered character who maybe can make you cry, but also can make you laugh and also fascinating to watch. That's what we all want to do, I think, or at least that's what I think every actor would love to do. And I was sitting around stewing in my own juice, kind of going, this is frustrating because the big parts that I want to read for are getting pretty much offered out to celebrities and people who can get views and get people to tune in. And although I've been around a long time and maybe I'm a familiar face, I don't think I'm on those short lists. So I thought, I was talking to another actress who was feeling the same way. And it does tend to happen to actresses more. When you're young, you are much more popular than as you age.
Yeah, absolutely, sadly.
I know there's a lot of, talk about trying to change that And it's definitely different in like England and places where older women are getting really great parts, but it's just not happening here as much. So I just decided to start creating characters and writing stuff and making stuff without any end in sight, because I have no literary rep. I have nobody to help me sell it to anywhere. You know, I did actually, through scraping around, get a pitch meeting at Comedy Central, and that was both terrifying and exciting.
Right.
And, you know, it's one foot in front of the other, but it can be done, and you can make stuff that's really good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's if there's one silver lining from all this in this world of having to do things on your own, is that at the end of the day, you can make really good stuff. And, you know, it may or may not lead to something else, but at least you made something really good, which you didn't have control over.
The other aspect of it is money, because it does cost money.
Oh, and I know.
Everything I do union. So I do a SAG contract because I'm a union girl, and the union has served me very well in my career and with health insurance and things that are important in real life. So I put a fair amount of what I earn right back into making stuff now. And I don't know how long that can be sustained, but I'll just do it as long as I can.
Yeah, it's, I don't think anyone knows anymore. It's a very weird world where people are so used to free content or, you know, nominal content. I pay $2 a month and I have, you know, 1 billion hours of stuff. Right. And I don't know where it will go. I kind of figured out this year, especially, that there's no precedent for anything happening anymore.
No, there really isn't. And anything can happen. By the same token, what keeps me going is like, if I find 100,000 people who think my weird sense of humor is funny, well, then I make more stuff for them, you know?
Absolutely. Yeah, you can find niche audiences and have a career that way now, whereas you don't need the gatekeeper of a network television show. And the people you do find are more engaged, which is kind of amazing.
I'm definitely, as you pointed out, a nerd. You pointed that out because of the Star Trek beginnings.
Well, I didn't want to say it.
And I love my fellow nerds. So if I can connect with them, because, you know, Therapy with Pami is a very odd show because it's about a completely shallow reality star type human trying to get better with the help of this therapist played by me who has her own problems. Right. And we just really wanted to connect to weirdos out there because we feel like deep down we're all weirdos. So maybe you could relate to the doctor character, or maybe you could relate to the poor lost soul full of Botox who wants to figure out how to have a happy life, you know?
Yeah, it's something for everyone really there.
Well, I hope people watch it. Find it on YouTube and Facebook because they're very short. They're 3 to 5 minutes, so they're great for the short attention span. Or, you know, if you're stuck somewhere and you just want to chuckle, we think you will. So tune in and watch a couple episodes.
Yeah, I'll put links up to all the shows on the tvguidance.com. But to your point about them being so short, you're able to convey a multi-layered character in that time.
Yeah.
Was that something that you thought was a challenge, or were you like, oh, this is because we're in control, we can do it?
I think the thing that I learned from doing it is that if you try to control too much, you won't get what you want, really. Right. You have to allow for something to happen. Basically, what we did is we had a day of shooting on a SAG contract with all these. We had a 7-person crew, which I was amazed. My partner, Caitlin, called in a lot of favors from UCLA people who just showed up to help us. And we mapped out a bunch of scenarios, but we did not write a script. It was improv. And we managed, with the help of an amazing editor, figure out how each one sort of had a beginning, middle, and end. And we were extremely pleased with how that worked.
Huh.
And we weren't even sure we were going to ever show it to anybody. We just wanted to do it to see what it would come out like. And that's the weird thing. It wasn't like we're going to do this, and then we're going to pitch it to this, and then we're going to attach it to that. We have been literally doing one baby step after another with this project. And when it came out so delightful, we both thought. We were like, okay, maybe we need to get a little PR person behind this, and maybe we need a little social media help. So we tried to do whatever we thought was the next step. So right now we've been doing podcasts and interviews, and next we're going to probably do Instagram TV binging things. And then we're going to try to formulate season 2 and see if money falls from the sky.
Right. Something falls off a truck for you.
Yeah, exactly. A big sack of money. That's what I need.
But it's you've organically created something good, and then it can find an audience later. I think that when people try to force something to be like a cult audience hit, or try to make something by reverse engineering how they want the audience to react to it, It always fails.
I agree. And we, for some reason, we have audience members who are older. We have younger people who like it. Now, younger people don't do Facebook very much, so we have to sort of up our YouTube game next, I think, because we haven't really been focusing on that at all. But that's how you get a different demographic. And, this is all a learning process, too, which, I like learning, so it's good to learn.
Yeah, no, it's true. Everything's evolving so quickly too.
Yeah.
That I think everybody's learning. There's no set path for any of this stuff to work, which is scary and thrilling at the same time.
I mean, I worry about people who, more so than me, that are trying to be actors from square one now, because it's so much harder to make a living. You literally have to have another career unless you hit a Disney show when you're 17, that's a huge hit, and then you're set. It's a very different world for young actors.
Since I've been doing the show, especially, and I've befriended so many people who act, it's kind of the most blue collar job that I know of in a lot of ways. And it's
absolutely that.
Constant hustle. You might get a decent payday for a gig, but you have to live like you're never going to work again after, because
if you are wise, you will be. I mean, I am so frugal, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and meanwhile,
I know that I could have a bad year where nobody wants me, and then when you get knocked off your rocker like that, it takes a while to get back up, because then your confidence is trashed. Right. You don't know if your audition skills have gone out the window. I don't consider myself a very good auditioner. Every once in a blue moon, I will, be wonderful at one, but it's just a skill. Some people, that's what they do better than acting, because I think it's a completely different skill. And probably I should just take a class where I just get drilled in doing them over and over again. But, it is exactly a blue collar job. It is, most of us live on a lot less money than normal people. I have siblings, and they're all like, how can you do that? They all have normal jobs. How can you not know where your next job is coming from, or how you're going to pay your rent, or,
Right.
I honestly, my hat goes off to all of us who have stuck around, because you have to take some abuse. You really
for
do.
Sure. And you're high profile, even if you're a character actor, where people recognize you from things. So they automatically assume you have a mansion.
Exactly. They
really,
think it's some glamorous life.
Yeah, where really it's, if they have a plumber come into their house, that person is a lot wealthier, and they're not going to be like, oh man, I saw you fix that toilet up the street.
Right.
And it was great.
I did a 2.5 Men episode. Where my chest was highly featured, because that show was not really about feminism
Character.
or anything like that.
Right.
I mean, but I liked the part because I was giving Jon Cryer shit about staring at my chest the whole time. But even to this day, I get weird internet interactions where all guys want to do is talk about my boobs. And I'm like, that's just weird that they feel like they can do that, because they see my episode of 2.5 Men, which reruns constantly, I think.
Right.
I think they show it every week somewhere.
Right.
It's very strangely, I'm not walk down the street, oh my God, can I have your autograph? But it's very weird privacy invasion that comes with being on TV or film, even if it's on a smaller scale.
Yeah, even especially today where everybody's so accessible.
Yes.
And it's, people can go, oh, who is that? And then probably have an app that just instantly gets in touch with you.
No, I get stuff at my house that makes me very nervous. And
that's weird.
And then people who are on Facebook, and I have an actress page, so those are for people I don't know, but they asked me to marry them and talk about 2.5 Men a lot. And I'm like, can you guys just let that go?
Yeah, it's 1 week. It's a job you did for 1 week.
A long time ago, too.
Yeah. And you had been in was it Partners you were in with Cryer before that? You did a guest star?
Yeah, that's where we met, and I really, he and I were we friends before that? I think we were friends before that because he and I both lived in Park La Brea and we had some mutual friends. But yeah, Partners was a show where I met a lot of people that I have still maintained friendships with. I don't see Jon as much anymore because he's married with a kid and he is on 2.5 Men. So he was very, very busy for a lot of years. So, but it was nice to work with him on 2.5 Men. We have a really good rapport as actors, I think.
I was going to say it comes across that you're friendly in real life when you see you guys on screen in those two roles.
He's a funny guy, and I miss him actually. Sometimes I miss the people. Like show business is also weird is that people get sucked into the vortex of having a hit show and you never see them again.
Yeah. And often when you act with somebody, especially, not as much on a multicam sitcom, but you're on set, you have a very intense experience with them. It's almost, you're at like summer camp with them and then you might never see them again or might work with them in 5 or 10 years or something.
Right. The guest star life is harsh, I have to say, because all I crave is a home with a family to create with, that's been my dream. And I have yet to get a TV show where I get paid and I get to go hang out with my family, my TV family,
Yeah, it's like constantly being the new kid at school.
Yes, you go and you have to learn all these names. And it's changed a lot over the years. Like I did a show called, I won't even say because I don't like to say negative things.
Fair enough.
Like last year, I guess by now, I don't know what day it is. Last year I did a sitcom and nobody said hello and nobody introduced themselves and everyone was on their phone. And I was like, this is like being invisible. And then when it was time for me to say my lines and do my scenes, I did them. And people looked at me during the scene and then they looked back at their phones or talked to their friends. And it was like I wasn't a person. It was really weird. Now, some shows are extremely welcoming. A lot of the old school shows like Third Rock was so lovely because everyone was kind. And John Lithgow sent you a thank you card after you left, for your week. But some places are very cold and they're about doing their business and then they don't even remember they ever met you. It's like you were never there.
Yeah, it's a temp job to them.
It's a temp job, and it's painful sometimes, because we just want to be part of the family for a very short time, and most of them aren't mean or anything, but they just want you to stand on your spot, say your lines, hold up your notebook or whatever you're doing, and then get the hell out. And get your paycheck and go. So
you're like a talking prop rather than a person.
A lot of them are. I mean, those are not my favorite jobs. Those are the ones like, I have an actress friend who calls them the ABCDs. Anybody can do it. So basically, if they need a person who looks a specific way, they will get the job because anybody who can walk and talk could do this part. Right. And those are not the parts I ever aspired to do. I always wanted to do really complicated things.
What are your, if you're recommending one or two things aside from your current thing that you are most proud of or that you really think illustrate what you do best? What are one or two things you would recommend people watch?
Well, I think the thing that people have mentioned is that I can weave comedy and drama together very well. So I would once again say my character on Ray Donovan, I'm very proud of because, you're playing with Liev Schreiber. It's the big dogs. All my scenes were with him and they came out really well. And I had a really funny, odd part on Weeds where I played an insane person named Mags. I loved my little tiny part on The Ring because they let me choose how I looked, and I looked very weird. Like I had my pants pulled up to my armpits. I was playing like a Seattle grunge lesbian, and people don't even know it's me often. So that I'm proud of. A lot of stuff I've done on stage I'm really proud of too. I played Beatrice in Much Ado About Nothing, but of course theater goes away when you're done, so no one will ever see it again.
Which is kind of what's
like in National Theater Live and they're videotaping it. But
which is what's kind of great, and also the rub of it, the same as stand-up, which I always say to people, the great thing is you do it and it's gone. So either way, if it's really good or really bad, it's people don't really recognize it. But then also that's the terrible thing as well.
It's harsh. And also because you rehearse for a longer period of time and you perform for sometimes, like I did Shakespeare on the road with the likes of Rainn Wilson and Jesse L. Martin, like Jesse L. Martin from, I called him Jesse L. Martin, that's what but Jesse L. Martin on he's on Law and Order for a while. We toured in our youth for a year and a half doing Shakespeare, and you're basically turned into each other's family. Yeah. And it can be both good and bad, but I love that aspect of theater, is that you look forward to seeing everyone every night, and you, like Caitlin and I've goofed around backstage, and that's how Therapy with Pami was born. She had created Pami in the Groundlings, in a Groundlings class, and whenever she would do her makeup backstage, sitting next to me, she'd start being Pami, and I'm like, what is that? And then I would take my hairbrush and interview the character, and we started recording I would ask Pami a question every night backstage before the show, and post the question and answer on Facebook, and people went bananas. So we're like, there's something here. Yeah. And that's where it was born, completely randomly. But it was born out of getting used to working with someone and being a family member with them, really.
It's that organic chemistry that you can't force it. It just sort of happens.
Yes, exactly. And I live for that, really. Those are the two things, really. The chemistry with other actors. One of my quotable quotes, if I have one, is listening is my favorite thing, because I would much rather listen to someone do a monologue and respond in some way than do the monologue myself. Right. Yeah. Especially coming from stand-up, it's hard for me to understand when people are like, oh, I'm just happy to make the whole thing better, even if it means there's less of me. Yeah. Which is not how things work in my world. No, but the best stand-ups are listening to the audience all the time, though. Right. Like absolutely. They are the other character in the scene, and that makes it more exciting for everybody, I think, even if you have a heckler or a jerk out there, It makes it an experience that you had to be at to get in. You out of what is my next joke? Right, absolutely. You're not on that autopilot. Yeah, exactly. Did you ever get to meet Leonard Nimoy? No, sadly not. He's gone. There are so many people on my list of I want to meet that I never have met, and now they're gone. But yeah, I would have loved that. Is there anyone who was on your list that you did get to meet or got to work with? Well, Jeff Bridges was huge. Peter Weir was huge. Tom Hanks, I worked with him on Téa Leoni's sitcom called Naked Truth. Oh, I love Naked Truth. Yeah, so the producer of Naked Truth was one of the creators of Bosom Buddies. Yes. So after Tom Hanks had become a huge movie star, as a favor, he said to Chris, this producer, I will do a guest star on Naked Truth. And basically, it's a very strange premise for an episode. Tom is at a restaurant. He comes out of the bathroom. His fly is stuck. And he asks this waitress, me, if I will help him unstick his fly. So I get on my knees, and I'm playing with his zipper on my knees. And he seems to be perversely enjoying it. And then I call another gay waiter over who gets behind him, and we're both yanking him around. And you find out at the end that he likes to come to restaurants and get his zipper stuck for attention, and just because it's a strange, perverted thing he likes to do. Because the premise of the show is like a National Enquirer type magazine that Téa Leoni works for. Yeah. So she made it part of her tabloid article for the day that a sexy waitress was yanking Hanks as she. But he was lovely. Tom was lovely. Trying to think of other big people. I have yet to meet a lot of my female heroes. I did meet Allison Janney because I worked on Mom, and she was fabulous. But I would love to meet Meryl Streep. Everybody does.
Absolutely.
And there's a lot of Brits I'd love to meet. I'd love to meet David Tennant. I'd love to meet Idris Elba.
I've had David Tennant on this show.
What?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. David Tennant did an episode.
Oh, my God. I have to go back and watch that. I would like to marry him as well.
He is the nicest guy ever.
Yeah, no, I can tell that, though. You can usually get a sense of whether someone's a jerk. And he just seems like a normal, like, he worked really hard at his craft, and he's very lucky. And, he has lots of children, and he's a happy man. A very skinny man, but a very
skinny and very tall. I was surprised at how tall he is.
Yeah. Well, I just watched Good Omens, and he seemed ginormously tall in that. So
I'm used to like male actors being, because I'm 6'3", and sometimes I feel like a giant. And but David Tennant's taller than me.
Yeah, and I just watched The Lighthouse yesterday.
Oh yeah.
And I never realized Willem Dafoe is teeny tiny.
Oh yes.
Yeah, he's a little bitty guy. He always seems so big because he's scary.
Yeah, do you know the actor Lance Hendrickson?
Yes.
He always plays a really terrifying, intense character.
Yes.
And I met him at a convention last year, and he is very small.
Really?
I
never figure that.
I was so shocked.
Yeah. Well, Willem Dafoe, Robert Pattinson is in The Lighthouse, and he towers over Willem Dafoe. And
I bet.
Are they making it look like that by putting Robert on a box or what? But yeah, there are a whole lot of pretty people. I would love to meet Judi Dench. I would love to meet, Idris Elba or Daniel Craig. And I would love, this is not British, but I would love to do a Marvel movie. That's a big dream of mine. I mean, who doesn't want to do that?
What character would you want to play?
Well, I would love to play someone who is badass because I feel like as I get older, I can do badass more convincingly, I think, than when I was young. Because I just don't give a shit. But also, I just feel like they let women be badasses in Marvel movies. And that would be, and I would love to play someone with a snarky sense of humor because my favorite of the Marvel movies are the ones where they're obviously, Robert Downey Jr. is at his best with his ad libs, and I would love to just do some witty repartee with those guys. Yeah.
It seems like a family, to your point. It seems like people having fun.
They're having a blast, and that's why people love to watch it. I could do without a lot of the beating up and blowing up of things because I'm a sensitive little girl. But if you get them all in a room making fun of each other and eating shawarma or whatever, I'm like in heaven. So.
Oh yeah, again, it's that family thing. It's the sort of busting each other's balls, and we've all been through this experience.
They need more women who are. Scarlett Johansson is extremely lucky to be there because she gets to be part of that, and there aren't too many women who get to be part of the snarky club.
Right? Or women who are at least allowed to be beautiful and snarky.
Yes, and there you go, Ken. That's my dream part is where they give me good makeup and lighting so I can be pretty, but I can be snarky and smart at the same time.
So you want like a Sybil Shepherd moonlighting kind of gig?
Either that or, I don't know, X-Files, Gillian Anderson kind of thing.
Also a very good thing to approach.
Yeah, another nerd thing, of course, too.
Is there, aside from Star Trek, is there any other nerd thing you got to do that you couldn't believe you were there?
Well, I was in Starship Troopers, which I'm not a huge Paul Verhoeven fan, but it ended up being such a weird movie. I was like, well, it was cool that I was in that, but that was after the fact. I had no idea what it was going to be when I did it. I'm sure I'm missing things that I did.
Do you keep?
I honestly should have a copy of my resume in front of me because I've been doing this so long, I forget everything. Like we'll get off. I love playing doctors too because I was a pre-med. So I love jargon. That's another reason why I like science fiction is I love to say weird alien names and I love to say weird disease names and stuff like that. So like I've played a lot of doctors on The Fosters. I played a doctor. I played a doctor who killed her patients. I played a nurse who chopped her patients up in little pieces on, what was that show? Oh crap. The Mentalist. That was fun. I like being like not what I look like. If I look like a nice all-American lady, I want to be someone who chops her patients up in little pieces because that's more fun.
Absolutely. It's always more fun to play the not even the villain, but I mean,
that's why David Tennant's doing a lot of that because I mean, he was wonderful as Doctor Who, but Doctor Who was kind of an anti-hero or how he played him anyway. But
and then when he's Kilgrave on Jessica Jones, he's terrifying.
Exactly. And what's the other one? There was another one where he was bad, but in Good Omens, he's a demon, but he's kind of a lovable demon.
He's a charming fella.
Yes, indeed.
Are you the kind of person who takes mementos from things you've done?
Usually not. Ironically, for Starship Troopers, I'm in one of those little web things, which is so prophetic to what we're doing now.
Right.
Where they check into what's going on the planet, Right. And I play a teacher who's exhorting her children to squash bugs because bugs fill us full of hate.
It's the enemy, yeah.
And I had these amazing shoes they gave me, and I had to stomp bugs with them. And by the way, they weren't allowed to use real bugs because it was against, but they threw real bugs in there and some of them got killed anyway. So, because some of them were fake bugs and some of them were real bugs. And you had all these little kids stomping bugs. And are they going to make sure they stomp the fake bugs? Probably not.
Always blame the children.
But I asked the wardrobe stylist when I was done, can I buy these shoes? Because sometimes you can buy shoes half price because they can't really use them again. And they were like, you know what, honey, we went so far over budget in this whole movie. You could just take it. So I still wear those to auditions. They're like my badass shoes for cops and things. I wear those because they're sort of like half boots, half loafer kind of things.
They're bug stomping shoes.
They make me feel like a big ass bug stopper. That's what they do.
Well, I hope you get to strap on your bug stomping shoes and be a badass with beautiful lighting at some point in the near future when we're all out of the global pandemic.
Yes.
And it's been great talking to you. I'll put up links to everything on tvguidancecouncil.com for everybody. Thank you for doing this.
Yeah, no, this was great fun, and thank you for having me.
There you go. That's Stephanie. As I said, she is absolutely great. I really had a good time speaking with her. I cannot thank her enough for doing the show, and I cannot thank you enough for listening to the show. We have another great episode next week. I will continue to get better at remote episodes, and I am working on booking some more great guests via remote episodes. So I'll see you again next time on a brand new edition of TV Guidance Council.
And I kissed the carpet because I knew he stood on it.